Bro, it's just a harmless joke. The young sailors laughed as they watched Daniel Cole, a quiet single dad and Navy mechanic, nervously adjust his collar outside a small seaside restaurant. They'd set him up on a blind date, telling him she was a sweet teacher from town. In truth, it was all a prank. A few of them wanted to see the stoic, introverted single father squirm a little. After all, Daniel was always the guy who worked overtime, who skipped bar nights, who sent every spare dollar home for his daughter's braces. He was too good. Too kind. Too humble. And they thought, maybe too easy to tease. As Daniel walked into the restaurant, unaware of the joke, the camera could almost feel his heartbeat, the mix of awkward hope and quiet loneliness that came from years of putting his child before himself. His uniform wasn't new, the edges were faded from years of engine grease and salt air. But he still looked sharp, out of respect. He'd lost his wife 5 years ago to a car accident. Since then, his life revolved around two things: fixing planes and raising Emma, his 9-year-old daughter who still drew little hearts on his lunch napkins. So, tonight, was a rare night out. Inside, he spotted her, the woman sitting at the corner table by the window. She looked far too graceful to be someone he'd ever meet through his crew. Shoulder-length brown hair, poise in her movement, confidence in her posture. Daniel hesitated before walking over. Hi, he said gently. You must be Claire? She looked up, a little surprised, then smiled softly. Yes, and you must be Daniel. The truth? She hadn't been told anything either. She'd simply been invited here by her father, who told her to meet a man worth her time. She had no idea it was a setup either. By the same unit that worked under her father, Admiral James Porter. For the first 10 minutes, the two sat awkwardly, exchanging polite laughs, sipping water, trying to fill the silence. But slowly, something began to shift. Daniel spoke about Emma, how she wanted to be a pilot like her mom used to dream of. How he worked double shifts to save up for her future. He didn't talk like a man trying to impress. He spoke like a man who'd lived. Who'd lost. Who still believed in good. Claire found herself listening, really listening. He wasn't flashy. He wasn't trying to prove anything. He just was. Meanwhile, across the street, the pranksters sat in a parked car, snickering as they waited for chaos. He's gonna choke for sure, one of them whispered. Wait till she figures out it's a setup. But what they didn't know was that Claire Porter wasn't just the Admiral's daughter, she was also a behavioral psychologist who worked with veterans recovering from PTSD. She could spot sincerity a mile away. And what she saw in Daniel was something real, something even she hadn't expected. The night stretched on. Dinner turned into dessert, laughter turned into comfort, and awkwardness turned into something human. When Daniel finally stood to leave, he said, "Thank you, Claire. I know this was probably not what you sign up for." She tilted her head. "Why do you say that?" He smiled faintly. "Because people like you don't usually end up at tables with people like me." That line stayed with her, and the camera would linger on her quiet expression as he walked away, leaving a single $10 bill folded neatly under his coffee cup. The next morning, chaos hit the base. The Admiral himself had found out about the blind date prank. And he was furious. Not because it happened, but because his daughter had come home quiet and thoughtful, asking him one question before going to bed: "Dad, what do you know about Petty Officer Daniel Cole?" When the Admiral called Daniel into his office that afternoon, the entire hangar went silent. The same men who set up the joke whispered among themselves. "He's done for," one of them said. Daniel stood at attention, unsure of what was coming. The Admiral's gaze was stern, unreadable. He finally spoke. "Mr. Cole, I understand you had dinner with my daughter last night." Daniel swallowed hard. "Yes, sir. I didn't know." The Admiral raised a hand to stop him. "Sit down, son." Daniel hesitated. Then, for the first time in years, someone called him son. The Admiral leaned forward, his voice softer now. "Claire told me what you talked about last night. She told me about Emma. About your late wife. About the sacrifices you've made for this country and for your little girl. Daniel's eyes flickered, unsure where this was going. Then came the words that brought tears not just to Daniel's eyes, but to everyone in that hangar when they later heard about it. "You see, my daughter said something I'll never forget," the Admiral continued. "She said, 'Dad, I think I just met the bravest man you've ever commanded.'" Daniel froze. His lips parted, but no words came. The Admiral stood, walked around the desk, and put a hand on Daniel's shoulder. "Those men who set you up, they'll face their own consequences. But you? You remind this base of what honor truly looks like. Quiet. Steady. Real." By the end of that week, the Admiral personally invited Daniel and his daughter to dinner at his home. Emma, wide-eyed, sat across from Claire, who couldn't stop smiling at the little girl's stories. The same men who mocked Daniel now watched as he was recognized in front of the entire unit, not for rank or medals, but for character. For integrity. As months passed, the bond between Claire and Daniel deepened. What started as a cruel prank turned into the beginning of something unshakably pure. Claire didn't fall for him because he was perfect, she fell for him because he was real, and because he reminded her that strength often hides behind humility. And when Emma asked one night, "Daddy, do you think Mom would like Miss Claire?" Daniel smiled softly. "I think she'd be proud." I finally smiled again. The video could end with Daniel and Emma walking along the pier, the Admiral watching from a distance, his proud, approving nod reflecting not just authority, but respect, and a voiceover fades in softly, leaving viewers with an echo that stays long after the video ends. Sometimes life's cruel jokes are just destiny in disguise, reminding us that the heart always finds its way home. Fade out. On-screen text appears quietly over soft music. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more real stories that remind us what truly matters.